Hello peeps, Dragon here. Welcome back to another Starmade tutorial. Today I bring you my version of a multi-level elevator. Now, looking at the logics, this looks scary at first, but those of you which know my tutorials might know that I am optimizing them for you to understand how it actually works in order for you to be able to repair it if something should go wrong. We are simply going to copy this over to that blank rail platform wall thing step by step and explaining the thought process along the way. Now the first thing we need to do is put a cabin thing there. In this example I just used the Docker and a core. We will do this the same thing. Now rail points downwards, meaning when we enter the core and then go galactic north, we want our rail Docker to point downwards as well. There we go, and then we can just dock. Now one of the next things we surely need to do is to control our rail, making it go up or downwards. We achieve this by pointing button elements next to rails pointing in the desired direction, which then control the rail we want to go up and down. Now this is the first of 3 steps. First, we need to put the rail in the right direction, up and down. Second, we need to start the cabin riding on the rail. And third, we need to stop the cabin and open the door at the right level. So to start and stop the rail, I would like to use a rail speed controller. Since we figured already that the starting and stopping of the cabin comes after we pick a direction for the rails, we need some kind of delay. So we have this activation block which we will activate to make it move and deactivate to make it stop. And I want that to activate the actual block that is connected to the rail speed controller one tick afterwards, but when it's get turned off, it turns off immediately. So this is why I put in this delay and then combine both the signals from the activation module and the delay with the AND gate and route this into the one activation module that actually controls the speed of the rails. Our input activation module also indicates when the elevator is busy. Maybe we should add a NOT gate to know when the elevator accepts new signals or new commands. And we might not want to access this block directly and rather do that through a NOR gate. Next, we need to decide at which levels our elevator should stop. So I'm spreading those out a little bit, like the distance don't have to be equal or anything like that. If you have no clue why I am just placing those activation modules on the rail blocks, then there are tutorials about rail and logic interactions. I will link them in the top right in the cards. So you should probably check those out. Also, we want an extra one at the top and at the bottom, which is used as failsafe. The bottom one linking to the top button and the top one linking to the bottom button. This means even if Starmade decides to mess up because of loaded sectors or stuff like that, should the cabin in any case reach the bottom, the rail will automatically point upwards, or should the cabin in any case reach the top, it will get sent back downwards. This elevator repairs itself basically. Also, we might want to add the button for calling the elevator. There we go. Those buttons should only react when this thing is high and the button is pressed. There we go. Also, it doesn't make sense when we could press the button as long as the elevator is on the same floor. So let's add knots here, like on each level. And then let's also route the knots back into the end. I just initialized all those knots to their default state. So in order to stop the elevator at the right height, each floor has to remember that it was triggered, selected, whatever. So in order to do that, we need to store the signal in a flip-flop, like such. Now I want this flip-flop to stay on as long as the cabin is here and then getting turned off when the cabin actually has left the platform. So to do this, I suggest we route this thing into an end, and we also route the knot into the same end, like here. And then this end will, as soon as the cabin has left and this knot comes back on, will then cancel this flip-flop's state. Now the knot should go off as soon as the cabin is here, right? And it should go on as soon as our level is selected. Meaning this end also could tell our start-stop mechanic that we want to start now. As soon as it's high, we want to start. As soon as it gets low, we want to stop. Okay, let's replicate this to the other levels. Before we can actually start and stop the cabin, we first need to figure out in which direction it should go, right? So in order to do this, I think we should have some storage thing. So let's say the cabin would be right here, right? So let's turn this on. Then all the other floors need some kind of a signal. So in order to do this, I figured we do this like such. We route, let's select this and let's go like such on each floor. And then let's connect them upwards, only upwards. So if we turn the lowest one on, all are on. If we turn the second highest on, those two are off and this will be on. This means if the elevator is here and this thing gets pressed, it says, look, I'm on, so you need to go up. If this thing is pressed, it says, let's put that below. So normally this would be off, right? Okay, pressed. Yeah, it's the lower signal. We should go down. So yeah, let's add these and then let's initialize all of them. So they are back in their default state. We want these signals to be compared to the selection or trigger thing. So we have to add some more ends here. On each floor, those two ends, and then select them like such. And if this end gets pressed, it should trigger the lower thing. And if this end gets pressed, it should trigger the higher thing. Just like that. Now let's replicate this to all the other floors. Alright, here we are. I copied it over, I initialized it, the cabin is actually here, and I suggest we just try to, see what happens if we activate this. Cabin has left, cabin has crossed here, arrived, that's good, that's awesome. Let's send it up even further up. Now, why is this on? And it returned here, did it? Huh. So, did you see that? I tried to get it up here. It gets up. Okay, that's cool. Now let's send it down. But this should not be on. Okay, so this seems like this has a bug here. Because we are connecting from here and from there. This only connects here and this connects back in here. So basically, what we are seeing right now is that, right, and then our thing leaves again, turning this on, which turns this off, but then, because this also is one of its sources, it does not influence this anymore. Well, it should work, right? But it doesn't. Okay, so, but I have to plan how to solve this. So what we are doing, we are selecting this thing and we are adding just another end like here. And then we are selecting this thing and selecting this thing. And this does no longer trigger that. Instead, we are doing it this way. Okay, this should not screw up because this only has to compare those two signals, and it does not have to reset the flip-flop. So the resetting of the flip-flop like this, and that doesn't bother us too much if this screws up. I don't know why it does this, but it's like this AND turns off the flip-flop, and the turned off flip-flop should also then turn off the AND, but it doesn't, right? So whatever. Okay, so we have to make those adjustments on each level. And then it is time to check it out again. So I also removed some blocks here, just because I want to see this in action. Does it sing? Heading down. Perfect. Heading further down. Awesome. So this really seems to work. So last task we have to do, we want to control those doors. So the rule for those doors is the door should only open, where is our, there you go. The door should only open when this floor is selected and the cabin is here. So we need to compare those two signals. So let's put an AND here. Let's also connect this signal there. And then from this end, let's route this into a NOT. And then take the signal from the NOT and then make like a door here-ish. Now this door is shut because, well, it should be, that's not initialized. So I'm going to copy this over, and then we are going to initialize all of those NOTs properly, and yeah, be right back. All right, here we are, everything set up. Now let's check it out. So doors are open here, closed there. Let's send it up. Okay, I already noticed something I don't like. So let's send it down. Yeah, the door stays open even though the cabin has started leaving already. So I'd like to change that as well. For that purpose, we could take this signal and then also route it in all to those ends. And now it should be like turned around. Now first the door should close and then the cabin should start moving. There we go. Awesome. That's how I like it. Eureka, we made it, yay. Alright, hopefully you are able to rebuild your own multi-floor elevator now. I know the wiring still looks a bit chaotic, but since you should be able to understand how everything works, I hope you are able to figure it out. So this basically concludes this tutorial. Thanks for watching here, and please leave a like if you liked it. I am also doing lots of Starmade live streams meanwhile. Not very frequently, but if you want to get notified when I'm going to come online, I suggest you hit that bell next to the subscribe button to, you know, receive a notification when I'm starting to stream. And if you want to visit me and maybe even want me to show off one of your builds, I am playing on the NFD build server. There is, you know, starmadedoc.net. They have their server thread there where you can, you know, apply and such stuff like that. Yeah, this wraps up this thing for today. I hope you enjoyed it, and I see you guys next time. Bye.